Hello, screenwriters and all you ships at sea. This is Writing for Screens. Ask me almost anything. My name is Glenn Gers, the chief hullabaloo at Writing for Screens, which is a channel on the YouTubes talking about writing for screens, screenwriting, television writing, web writing, writing for any form of screen that you can think of. I am here to talk to you about various aspects which I have learned about in my 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of the business, I am giving you guys a tip of the hat, offering you what I taught myself during those years in case it is useful to you. It's not a system. It's not rules. It's just tips and tricks and insights, skills that I had to figure out for myself, and I would like to offer them up so that you don't have to figure them out for yourself. You can just try them, see if they work for you. They may not, because every writer has to figure out their own path. Every writer works their own way, and all you can do is explore as many different ways as possible and see which ones work for you. That's the rule. That's the job. Okay, hello. Wow, we got some folks saying hi. Hi, Flying Over Trout and To Future TV and G Jones. Hello, G. I do not know I've ever seen you before. Hi, Najo. Good to see ya. So yeah, this is the deal. Here on this channel, which you can find here at the bottom of my channel page, you will find playlists. The first three of those playlists are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. Those three playlists are where I have selected, it's coming up on 50 10-minute lessons. That's just what I could condense down into the most useful, practical, clear set of ideas for you to play with. And the name and the thumbnail all tell you what it's about so that you can say, I think I'd like to learn about scene work or genre or dramatic action or dialogue or character. What does he have to say about that? Please go look at those. Those are the ones. That's the stuff. I spent decades figuring this stuff out. I tried to condense it down to something useful and not full of crap. And so I hope that you will look at that, because so many of your questions, the answers are in there. That's really the truth. Hi, Michael and Sonia. Hello to all of you. Okay, so today, lurking is excellent. I am a big fan of lurking as a lurker myself, a long-time lurker. So yeah, everyone who is lurking, welcome. You are more than welcome as qua lurkers. Being a lurker, it's a good thing. All right. Today's episode I called Characters, Money, and More, because I got a bunch of questions in comments and emails, and I thought I'm just going to answer them. They are about lots of different topics, so that's what we're doing. If you have questions and you are here live and you want to ask me them, go ahead. That's what this is. This is Ask Me Almost Anything. So let's start with the first one. The first question in my list are, what are character inner flaws? There was a question, what is the meaning of character flaws, inner flaws? Can you give some examples? And the answer is, there's no rule here. As with everything, pretty much, except some basic formatting, everything is a matter of opinion. It is a matter of interpretation. Some people believe that a character flaw is required. I don't know that's true. I do think that it's probably true of human beings. We all have good things and bad things about us, and that's really what the heart of character flaw is that these people are human. They are not simple. They are not just one thing. So for whatever good quality they have, they will also have some problem, some thing in their nature or something in their situation which has made them flawed, not good, bad even. And that's what a flaw is. A flaw is simply that. There's people have theories of flaws. You will read books where somebody will say every character must have a flaw and the flaw must do this in the plot. That's nonsense. That is silliness. That is just over theorizing. that is theorizing authoritarianism. You may have a character with a flaw, you may not. Your character flaw may or may not be central to the plot. The answer is, it's a tool. It's a thing that you can use to think about characters, because one of the things that a character flaw gives you is a sense of fear or uncertainty on the part of the reader. Is this flaw going to undermine our character? Is it going to destroy the character's good intentions? Very often the flaw and the best qualities are interrelated. Somebody may be rather tricky and clever and therefore able to accomplish things that normal people can't. However, they also therefore tend towards the criminal. Their flaw may be that because they are so able to easily play with people's minds, they have no insight into themselves. Anything is possible. You have to think about what you think is true about your experience of people, and especially what your opinion is, your choice is about this character. So can I give you examples? Sure. I think the better thing would be, can you not find an example? Any story you look at, you can interpret it as the character having a flaw. It doesn't mean that they were intended by the author or the story. But let's look at something classic like The Godfather, because hopefully you will watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should really try to see it as just a classic storytelling example. But the thing about the main characters, for instance, there's three brothers. Sonny is strong, he's bold, he's charismatic. He's also quick to anger. Too quick to anger. It is his fatal flaw. These people all have flaws which are both their good, a lovable quality about them, and possibly a potentially terrible quality about them. Fredo is really sweet but kind of dumb. He says, "I'm smart. I don't know why people say I'm dumb," but that's because he's dumb. He doesn't know he's dumb. Michael, some people would say he's cold, or certainly corrupt. He has chosen the dark side. On the other hand, he's really smart, and he's really determined, and he's really strong. So, what's a mother to do? The answer is, everybody has flaws. Do the flaws play into the story? If they do, you want to think about how that flaw creates tension or concern in the reader, in the watcher, or how it affects their story. Is it something they're going to overcome? Is it something they're going to make good? Like sometimes a character's flaw will become their most dangerous quality or their most admirable quality. It will become something like in Unforgiven, there's a fair argument that Will Money's worst quality is also his best quality, because he's very good at killing people. So the answer is, what is a flaw? There is no absolute rule about this, but you can say that it is unbelievable in a story that everyone is one thing and that thing is ideal or perfect. That just don't happen. So therefore, I think that what you're doing is talking about the way that your characters are human. And how does that play into what they are trying to do, what the story is about? It may or may not. There is not a rule about that. Okay, so let me just quickly say some things back to folks. Hi, Butte. Hi, Jean, who is currently in ward number 6. And yes, conflict reveals human flaws often. That is for sure. Conflict can also reveal human strengths. The truth of this is that when people start to look for some kind of formula for stories, you are doing bad. You are making a mistake. The character flaws or anything else about characters or story is a tool, a possibility. Some stories will do that, not all, not required. Okay. Alec Webb. Hi, Alec. You have a question, which is, John Truby's Anatomy of Genre and the genres of detective and thriller share a chapter. What are some movies that execute both really well? Let me give that a think. Let me answer some of the other ones while I think, and I will get back to you on that by the end of this session. Lack of flaws can be a bit annoying, like Robert Langdon. Yes, yeah, exactly. Dan Brown's books are not great on the richness of developing character. They have cool quirks, and then they just sort of like stay at that one level, and they go through cool puzzles. Quite entertaining. I'm not going to put it down, but you're not talking. Does Robert Langdon have a flaw? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know the story well enough. But also remember, these are opinions. A writer. I don't know if Shakespeare cared at all about character flaws. He may have just cared about the poetry of his vision, and he had his own way of looking at it. Later we can say, King Lear has this flaw, and that flaw is this thing, and that's a fine interpretation, but it wasn't required to create the art. It can be used to create the art. It's not a required part of it. So that's the tricky thing. Also, I'm using 4-point opposition to build my story. I do not know what that is. I do not know all these rules. Most of these rules, and I've done a whole video about screenwriting rules because there's no such thing as rules. There's tools. There's things you can try. So let me get back to that one too. But the answer would be almost all of these rules, these like this is how you do a script. They were written after I started writing. I was already a professional writer when most of those books came out, so I didn't read them. And so now and then people come up to me and say like, "Hey, I'm using the Windjammer twist thing," and I'm like, "I don't know what that is." And I don't mean to say that like it's bad. It's very likely that these are things that that writers sometimes use unconsciously or have a different name for. Langdon is claustrophobic. You see, he has a weakness. By the way, a weakness is not necessarily a flaw if you think about it. But thank you, Sonia. Hi, Donna. Hello, Mohammed. Is it true that all the characters' psychology is combined? No, that is absolutely not true. It can be true, like all of these things. Your questions fascinate me, because I can't figure out where they come from, in the sense that is certainly a cool idea. It's certainly a concept. Could characters represent the hero's singular personality? I don't understand entirely how that would happen. I mean, I guess if you're saying the hero is brave and loyal and whatever, and then you have other characters who are individually brave and loyal, but it seems like an analytical construct thrown over the art. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, oops. 4-point opposition, say Truby thing, I believe. Helpful a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Truby seems like a good guy. I have read part of one of his books, and he seems smart. I would just say that and I don't know what he says about this, but I would say do not believe if that a framework is the right is the framework, that all stories have the same thread. Why on earth would all stories have the same structure? That's just absurd. All stories are not alike. That's why we have all stories and not just one story. If all stories were alike, we would just need one. Outline shows holes in my story. If I feel discouraged, absolutely. That's actually kind of how I work. I outline to a certain extent, and then I at a certain point I'm like, I don't know. Let me write it, then I'll know. Okay. And Sonia, that is true. He's claustrophobic. Cool. Yeah. Here's the thing. Character flaws. Let's get back to that for a second. If a character is claustrophobic, is that a flaw? I mean, that's a it's certainly a weakness, a disability, a quality, a quirk. Flaw is such an interesting concept because it suggests like like you could probably live your whole life. Robert Langdon probably can't because he's constantly being locked away by villains. But most people, you could have claustrophobia. You could be claustrophobic, and be fine. Just don't go into elevators. I guess that there's a sense that you don't want to schematize this too much. Like if the claustrophobia was going to be an important flaw in the story, in that it's like kryptonite. It's like, we now know how to make Robert Langdon crack, and he'll give us the secret by locking him in a room. The question would be, A, can he overcome the claustrophobia? And if so, how, and what does that mean for it? But it's more about what does it mean in the story, not just is it meaningful. The question of the characters in The Godfather, the reason I brought them up is because their flaws actually do relate to their story, to their fate, to the meaning of who they are in the family. And I think that's important. Let's take a hold on the questions for let me do the other official ones, and then I will get to back to some of these. By the way, I'm just going to say, I just want to check Alex. Two opposing sides of a philosophical conflict, and then aside positive and negative aspects of each side across 4 characters. I would say that's certainly it's nice to have like a checklist of things to think about. What is the philosophical conflict, and what are the positive negative sides? That's a good question to ask. Do you have to assign each one to a separate character? Do they have to be opposed? I don't know. I'm not sure about that part. But I do like the concept of asking the question, what is the philosophical conflict? What is the conflict? What ideas are being played out? And what are the positive and negative sides of that? Good stuff there. Do you have to do that as, person A has negative side A and person B has positive side A? That seems to me overly schematic. There's lots of other ways you could do it. And not every single, one person could just talk about it. I don't know. Or one person could have 2 things in them. There's so many variations that are possible. Okay. Let me get to the next question, the official question. How do I get background character background information into a script? The fuller version of this is, let me read you a bit of it. It's from David W. I am writing a sci-fi script, and I don't know where to put an overview of the future world and technology to set the stage for the story. And then further, regarding character background information, I've seen scripts where the main characters have a block description of age and background when they first appear in the script. Do you use these elements in your scripts, or is there a better way to include this meta information for the reader? And then there's some more stuff I'm going to talk about in a minute, but let me just start out with this basic thing. In general, in script writing, you do not want to separate out information. One of the things that I urge you to do is not think about information as the purpose of a scene, or like the information should play out. In other words, if there's information, it would be important because it's something involving the people and what they are doing. If there is a political pressure on these characters, you would expect those characters to engage with it in their events, in their stories, in the way that they talk to each other. So therefore, you wouldn't have to separately say, there's this country has a political system with an executive and a Congress and a Supreme Court, and there's 2 main parties. You don't need to say that, because they will, in talking it out, or playing it out or doing it, they will bring it up in their own way. I apologize, by the way, for the gardener standing right outside my door, apparently cutting grass. Not my grass. I don't have grass, but you know what I'm saying. The neighbor's gardener. So my basic answer to that, David, is no. You do not want to generally separate out information. You want to think about, how does this information play out in the dramatic action? I urge you to watch my video called Dramatic Action. That's a good one. It tells you a lot about this. Also, I did one on world building, but I don't think I have thumbnail for that here yet. World building, talk about this a lot too. For instance, if you want to tell the entire history of a place leading to a thing, movies are not actually the right place for that. Most movies. Now and then you will have a movie where they will figure out a technique in which to do it. Citizen Kane is a lovely example. The beginning of Citizen Kane is a newsreel. It is a formal device in which we get the quick public overview of Charles Foster Kane, which then ends on the question, what else do we know? What's underneath this public persona? But we get all the facts, the information laid out the first time. It's actually then dramatized several times over. That's key. If it was just information, we would not care. I think there's I can't remember if it's the movie The Kingdom. It may be. There's the title sequence has like a timeline. I think it's the movie The Kingdom about Saudi Arabia, and it's there's a terrorist crime against U.S. citizens that makes American investigators have to go over there. But I believe the title sequence lays out what the filmmakers wanted you to have as historical background. Or you can have a character who knows this stuff, or people who are debating it. Or you can dramatize it. You can actually show the Congress in action if you want. Like Arcane, the Netflix series, does a lot with the governance of their world. But they do it by having the characters be involved in that thing. So the answer is, overall, you don't generally you don't stop for information. The important thing about that is because the movie can't stop for information. So if you do it in the script, you are leaving your collaborators with a certain point of, okay, we know that because we read this section of the script which describes the sewer system, but how are we going to get that across on the screen? And you haven't done that job, and that's the screenwriter's job. The screenwriter's job is to think, how can I have things play out to tell the information? But information is not the substance of movie storytelling, of screen storytelling. Partly just because of the condensation, partly because of the requirement of drama. However, it is also possible to do all sorts of things. You could easily stop and do a little biographical paragraph or page, or you could even have a separate document that's just all the information, like a little Bible, to go with the script. Somebody wants to know, they look it up, but they don't have to stop and do it. The key here is stopping. When people in the business of making movies and TV read something, they don't want to stop because they don't want the audience to stop. They want the audience to keep going. They want the experience to be non-stop. Even, if you're doing something episodic, you want to find some way to keep them from not coming back. You want them not to stop. You want to be engaged. Now, Bertolt Brecht would say, no, let's stop. Let's have a little discussion here. Let's do a slideshow. Cool. Euphoria actually does a damn fine job of that. They will stop to discuss addiction or kidney infections and do a really cool job of it. So cool. Kudos to them. The question is, how do you work that in a stylistic way? If you have a way you like, you could just have a character who comes out and talks every once in a while. It's whatever you want to do. Just recognize that you will be fighting the commercial tide when you do these formal inventions. On the other hand, could be brilliant. So I'm not going to say you can't do it. I'm saying do recognize that the traditional business of making shows and movies, they don't want you to do that. So let me quickly scan the comments and see what's going on here. All right. Okay. Let me get back. I'll get to those questions in a second. They're really good. I love them. They are making me joyous. But I want to talk a bit more about this concept of the information. Because the other question is, several scripts I've read use POV narrative. We see the building as we fly to the horizon. That's the example given. And it's as if someone is telling the visual story to us. That is a legitimate voice. That is a way to do it. I have given a bunch of links in the description of this video already on times I have talked about how you write description of characters, how you write action, how you describe things so that because you can choose to do it as we see this, or you can choose to do it as, the plane flies over the horizon. Those are all legitimate voices. You do not have to do it. You should know the tricks that are available to you and choose which ones feel comfortable for you that you're willing to work with. So please do look at those links. There's a bunch of them there. The world building video is particularly relevant here. Okay, so very, very briefly, I just want to talk about another question, which is, can you do a video on the financial earning aspects of writing? And the answer is kind of no. And I actually have, and those links are down below too. There's 3 videos in the playlist career, but also a bunch of Ask Me Anythings on the topic of how do you make a living as a writer and how do screenwriters get paid. That's where I talk about that. So I have done that. But overall, I don't think that's, first of all, it's not my area of expertise. I did make a living, but I wouldn't say the way I made a living is how you should make a living. So one thing, the way I made a living was in a business that's different from the one you're in. Second of all, everyone is in a different situation. So anyone who's saying like, this is how you make a living as a writer is lying to themselves or you. They are saying a specific path and telling you it is all paths. It is wrong. It is wrong-headed thinking for an artist to believe that. You have to figure out what your particular situation is and what it's worth to you. Because I have to urge you to remember, when you make a living as an artist, you give up a great deal of artistic freedom and value. You have to serve artistically 99% of the time. A person who is working as an artist is doing something involving compromising their artistic goals or vision or ambitions in order to do what the people who have the pay want. That's just a fact. The problem is that we see publicity materials about the artistic creative freedom of writers and directors and actors, which is not accurate. Very, very few directors, let alone writers. Remember, directors have more power than writers. Very few writers can say, I am writing what I choose and other people will pay me a lot for it and make it the way I say. That just is almost unheard of. What happens is those few people get celebrated for their successes by the business because they like to tell that story, and the media likes to tell that story because it's a better story than, hey, I'm one of 27 people on a writing staff and they tell me what to write and then I do my best and then they rewrite it. And that's how I make all the money, because that's how you make the money. Okay, so, but I did put links in the description, so that please do look at the links in the description on this topic. They are valuable. All right, let's get into the goodies here. Okay, so Alec, I hope I did not dismiss your question or your the issue, because I do not mean, the fact that I do not work along those ways does not mean I think it's wrong. I just would say it is wrong to believe it is the right or only way. It may be a very good way, though. This is really important. If I say a rule is not general, does not mean it's not a useful tool. Rules are tools. As far as the anatomy of genre and the question of, let me get back to this question about genre. Examples, there's so many. Detective and thriller share a chapter. There's a good reason, because I like genres, and by the way, I have a whole video on genre. I urge you to take a quick look here at this. Boom, bada boom, bada bing. I did a video on genre in which I explained it's not like there's a scientific test you can do. Oh, that's a detective and that's a thriller and these are the differences. This is a matter of opinion. And everyone, will have an opinion and it will be different. That's the whole reason that people do this, is because by having an opinion, you get to write a book with your opinion and then other people take it. The problem is, don't take it as the law. It ain't. Some people would say that detective is a subgenre of thriller. Others would say they're separate. The detective genre, you would say, is centered around the concept of someone detecting, someone who is solving a puzzle or mystery, which can overlap in that can be a thriller, like in John Grisham's Pelican Brief or the Firm. These lawyers stumble upon some mysterious or bad thing, and they spend the rest of the story uncovering it. But at the same time, everyone's trying to kill them, so it's both a thriller and a mystery. Then you have something like Murder on the Orient Express, which is just a straight detective story. Somebody gets killed at the beginning, or close to the beginning, and then they spend the rest of the time investigating. Nobody thinks that Poirot is going to get knocked off in the course of that. So it's not a thriller, it's just a detective. That would be the difference. Thriller is some kind of story involving some kind of danger, some kind of extreme danger, very often criminally based, but not necessarily. And there's a sense of suspense on whether this person is going to either pull off what they want or get stopped or escape what they don't want. So that's what I would say. Something that pulls off both at once. Gosh, there's a lot. Pulls a detective thriller. Well, Seven. See, now Seven, there's no real threat. There's no real threat to the cops, except the threat of failing and of letting people die. But Seven is a dynamite thriller detective story. I don't know. Any question which asks me to come up with stuff is, unfortunately, I have a lot of stuff in my head, but you'll just sit and watch me riff on movies I liked, and I won't have a good organized answer. So the answer is, I'll try as we go along. Okay. So, it's a novel, but a film. I thought Heat 2 is a great thriller detective story. Okay, that's an interesting thing. Heat 1. Let's talk about Heat 1. I haven't read Heat 2, but Heat 1, Pacino is a detective. De Niro is a thief. Thriller by far, definitely. There's lots of thrilling going on. The crimes are thrilling, and the cat and mouse is thrilling. And it's a great detective story of, is Pacino going to catch De Niro? There's a good one. Everyone else chime in too. Save me. Why everybody thinks that Blake Snyder Save the Cat is a kind of blueprint that will make them, I don't know. Why do people think that Save the Cat? Because at some point the industry picked up on it. Here's what happens a lot of the time. The people working in the business, not the writers, although some writers, but especially the executives, for some reason, they get snagged on a particular system. A particular book becomes popular. Christopher Vogler's book for a while, Robert McKee's book for a while, Blake Snyder's for a while, Sid Field's for a while. Different books sometimes become the common currency of the business, which filters quickly down to the writers and to the teachers of writing, which is now a whole category unto itself. When I started out, there was no such thing. But now there's a whole division of writing teaching. And so the answer is, at a certain point in, I guess, the 90s, Blake Snyder's book became popular in LA among those people. And that spread out, because what happens is, if the people who are deciding what scripts to buy are reading a certain book and it's giving them rules and they're trying to apply those rules, that becomes very important to all the writers, because you got to know what weird set of rules is being applied to you. These rules are nonsense. They are not bad. They are just not absolute. They are just ideas. They're just a theory. Please watch my video on screenwriting rules. But the point is, I think Blake Snyder's was fun to read. It was very easy to read. McKee, Truby, they're hard to read. They're academic works. They are literature. They're trying to be literary analysts as well as how-to people. The thing I'm trying to do here is not do literary analysis. I shy away from it. I think it gets in the way of being a real how-to guy, a real how-to recipe, tool, skills kind of person, because I think that's true. A recipe is not a formula. A recipe is how you do one thing. A recipe is how you make one kind of cake. And you should know how to make that kind of cake and the skills involved, and then you can apply that or not to other dishes. Okay. Vertigo. Yes, once again, Vertigo. Yeah, Hitchcock is good on those. Absolutely. Definitely a quirk. We're talking about the claustrophobia. Okay. Yeah, it gets, yeah, it's fun. Absolutely. Claustrophobia. No, he means Vertigo, the movie, not Vertigo, the thing. Michael was talking about the thriller, an example of a thriller. It's a detective story, but also a thriller. And he's using the example of Vertigo. But I understand why you thought that, because we were talking about Robert Langdon having claustrophobia. Okay. Saw all the president's men, 90% interviews of witnesses. I would disagree about that. Do you think it worked as a movie? Yes, I do. And I think it's a really interesting work as a movie, because it is the story of building a story, of building a journalistic story. Spotlight also. And the answer is, I don't think that it's 90% interviews with witnesses, 90% debating what is the story and how do we get it. That's actually the best part. All the stuff where the journalists are like saying to each other, like, what counts as a story? When can we say this is news and not just opinion or gossip or whatever, speculation? They're saying, when can we publish this story reliably as journalism, and how do we get that information when we don't know what the story is? And so it's a suspense movie about finding things out, and I like that a lot. Anderson Tapes, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, had interviews between action scenes, but the tricky thing about that is that the interviews are from the future. The interviews are flash forwards, so that's great. I stole that for Mad Money. Okay. Hi, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm okay. Doing all right. Hope you're not up too late. My novel is going good. I'm doing separate live streams on that topic, so please check them out. Okay. Hi, Nathan. Cool. Okay. Thank you. There you go. Okay. Narrow Margin. Yes, that's a good one. That's a fun thriller detective movie. There's so many. It's detective thrillers. Like, I could go on. Hi, Isabel. Thank you so much, Heath. I appreciate that. That is very kind of you. Hey, Maisie. I know it's late. The novel version of Blake Snyder. I did not know there was one. It doesn't. Blake Snyder. It's so interesting about Blake Snyder. One of the things about Blake Snyder's book is that it came and went relatively fast, partly because it was so much easier to read than all the other screenwriting books. It demanded so much less of you, which I know is a bad thing to say, but it's true. It's just not very good. It's whacked out. He has some cool insights. I particularly find his insight into the meaning and structure of log lines, it's an early chapter, pretty good. But then he'll get into what he defines as a genre, and he'll be like, story about some guy who sleeps on another guy's couch. That's a genre. It's like, what are you talking about? He's just talking about his stuff and his fun method and his very, very sloppy execution of it made it really fun for everyone who was trying to learn screenwriting without wanting to actually work hard, which is unfortunately how most people in the movie business view screenwriting. And so what happened was Blake Snyder's like Save the Cat. It was just so easy. Save the cat. Oh, which means, by the way, for those of you who don't want to read the book, and honestly, not that much there. Save the cat means have your hero do something good or nice or admirable in the beginning of the story so we know he's a good person. And that's so easy. It's not reliable. You can't always do that. But what the heck? People snagged on it, And what's interesting is how fast it fell off, but how fast Blake Snyder Incorporated, because I believe he has passed on, but his business has worked to make it a set of videos and I think a game and a comic book and a novel, apparently. Anyway, the point is they are just working so hard to sell you stuff with formula. Like, oh, here, plug in this stuff and you've got a story. And that's what's bad. I don't like to trash other, teachers, but that idea that you could here's a list of things you have to have. And I'm going to sell you $80 software to plug it into. That's bad. That is unacceptable to me. I say no. Okay. All right. So, thank you, Kyle. That is very kind of you. Cool guitar. Okay. It's more for beginning script readers. Not even, because it just says things that aren't true. The thing about Truby and McKee is that they make good cases for what they're saying with all their literary building. I believe that the problem for me with Truby and McKee and stuff is in their desire to make a formula that, and they know that you can't apply a formula, but they want to have some kind of rules. We all do. They twist things up to try and like if you take something like All the President's Men, and it's tricky because All the President's Men was written pretty formulaically, but at the same time, if you get something like a Jim Jarmusch movie, and it's just like this does not fit your rules, and it's still good. So what happens is a lot of people then like analyze oh well, he actually means this, and that's how this fits, and that's why this is that way, and it's like it's just working too hard instead of just saying, sometimes this is true, sometimes this is not true. Jessica Brody, Save the Cat. I am not going to read that. Life's too short for me. Okay. Should I pitch my show first or put it into a competition first? Well, this gets into, and hi. This gets into an interesting and tricky area, which I'm going to venture just a little bit into, because you have to understand, this pitch competition thing and the script competition thing, this all came into existence after I had been in the business for 15 years. I did not ever experience them, so I do not have an authentic, knowledgeable set of information about that. What I can say about them is I believe that you have to recognize that none of those things overall are what give you a career. They are nice. You definitely should do competitions if you can get to be like a quarter finalist or something. That's nice on your resume. It means that somebody who's you're going to read your stuff may say, well, at least they're competent enough for that. Or if you win one, most of them, they may not do it except for the cost. It costs money to apply. And that worries me. The pitch competitions, I've heard very bad things about them. From what I understand, almost always, they just are not real. Like you're not going to proceed into the business from that. They often send the lowest of the lowest employee, and I don't mean that like badly, I just mean hierarchically, they will send the most junior people to hear those pitches. They don't want to hear those pitches. They're not taking them seriously. That is what I have read about this situation. Pitch competitions, if you want to, but do also remember the quality of pitching, the content of pitching, the art of pitching is almost entirely unrelated to the art of writing. And you can be really great at pitching and not good at writing, and you can be really great at writing and not good at pitching. And you don't have to do that. If you get good enough at writing, people will help you to pitch it. But pitching is just not something you do that much in the business. Honestly, you are offered, like somebody will say, like you come up with a story, and almost always it's better to have the script written when you pitch it. And then when you're pitching it, you're just basically advertising it, you're selling it, you're doing a commercial for it. And that's a set of skills, but prioritize that way low on your things to do list. Pitching, it's fine. I like it in some ways. I overdid it in some ways. But that was when I already was in the business, when I was pitching specifically to someone who knew who I was and was interested in my work. Going to something where it's a cattle call where they just sit there and you come up and you talk for 3 seconds and they hear a log line and some razzle-dazzle bullshit. I'm sorry, I do not find that valuable. That is my opinion. I could be wrong. I am not an expert in this stuff. The competitions, I would just say, how much does it cost and what are the likely, like what can you win? And what are the odds? Like the nickel is a valuable win. It's also very hard to win because there's a lot. Still worth doing. Okay, some of those competitions, they're worth doing. But, actually, there's a podcast called The Screenwriting Life. Let me see if I think I have a... yeah, here we go. The Screenwriting Life podcast. And they did one episode, Sartor, where they interviewed a friend of mine named Lisan Sartor. And Lisan, there we go. Okay. So, Lisan Sartor on the Screenwriting Life podcast. Look at that. Okay. There is an episode of the Screenwriting Life podcast. It must be a year ago now. So go through their archive and see if you can find it. She talks about this stuff, and she really does know what she's talking about. She has absolutely, she works in that field. She is an excellent writer on her own, but she also has worked as a judge and administrator of these contests and things. And she actually knows what she's talking about that. So I would urge you to check that out. Okay. So there we go. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Use with any of these things. Blake Snyder, anybody could be valuable if they help you to give it something that you want to hang on to and that helps you to be creative. Groovy. Try to use beat sheets early on. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's everybody's got some good things and some bad things. It just depends. If you're reading theory instead of writing, you're writing. Bad. Don't do that. If you are reading it afterwards to help you to feel good about tomorrow's work, yes, do that. Do not put your writing aside to gain theory. Ever. Okay, I've read Snyder, Field, and I feel like we're out of here. Well, thank you, Moons. I appreciate that, but it's not an either or. This is not a zero-sum game. It's all there. Okay. Thank you. More complete is good. Did you experiment with structure on your novel? To a certain extent. It wasn't much that I experimented. I just figured out. I knew the story I wanted to tell, and it began to break into sections, and I got the idea of this of these chapters in between the sections that would be from other perspectives. And once I had that idea of these found notebooks, then it was just juggling how many and what's in them. Your video on dramatic action is seen is very helpful. Anything to further say on that subject? Only that you should think about it all the time. I think about it all the time. On the other hand, I think, no. I feel bad. I worked for years on these videos. Like literally, I have worked on coming up with those. The content of those videos has been scripted over the course of years and years. I started teaching, did some courses at UCLA 10 years ago. 10 years ago? Yeah, 10 years ago. But I was working before that on the idea for a screenwriting book. So we're talking 10, 15 years of these notes for these things. So I really have down to what I want to say. And also, the more I talk, the more diffused the message gets. That's why I do these videos so short, and that's why these live streams I feel iffy about. The best thing would be for you to have like a little index card, or like one of those rocks with the thing carved into it, and then you just take it and you do with it what you're going to do. If you're spending all your time with my words in your head, we've screwed up. It's the ideas, like I said, like if I like cooking, and so if I find out that there's like, oh, if you put salt in here or butter in there, that helps the sauce be this way. It's like, okay, cool. Butter makes sauce creamy. Cool. Now I can go make my sauce, whatever. But I don't want to be thinking all the rules about how butter was invented and what the greatest butter is. And it's just like, screw that. Just have your own thoughts using my tools if useful. That's it. And that is not, by the way, thank you so much, Heath. I do not mean in any way to dismiss your question. I just mean I feel like I would be undercutting myself having said it. If there's a specific, if there's a thing that I raised that I didn't answer fully, definitely ask me. Just send me an email or write in the comments. But in general, if I put out a video, it means I have thought it to death. And I've decided, for better or worse, and I never look back at those videos without saying, oh, I wish I had said it this way. But that's why I'm trying not to look at them. But I overall stand by that I've boiled it down, which is the key and a kitchen thought. I try to get it down to something that's simple enough that even if it's not saying everything, at least what it says is true. So, I'm an unknown writer making an entire pitch deck and video pitch, which might be overboard. Maybe I should just... Yes, Jordan, thank God I stopped you. Do not do pitching of any form until you have the script done. Write your pilot. Get it great. Write your thoughts for what the rest of the show would be. Get that down. When you've got all of that, then you have something to pitch. But it's more important to spend the time on the script. It is more important to get, because here's the thing, the secret to a great script is, to a certain extent, if you really know that your script is as good as you can make it, then basically what you want to do is have one sentence. You want to say, like when I talk about my novel, it's about a romantic triangle set in New York City among the painters in the 1930s who are going to become the abstract expressionists in 10 years. That's it. Boom. Either somebody wants to read it or they don't. And if they don't, I don't want to try and pitch them and sell them and show them how cool it would be. And if they do, get into the words, get into the pages. One sentence. That's what you want. You want, 1 to 5. But you want to be able to have something that you say, I am not the point. This is the point. Read this thing. Well, it's no longer this because it's like click the button to the PDF. But you know what I'm saying? The best pitch is, I wrote this cool thing about these people going up a river and one of them is a frog. And then you just say, trust me, read the first page. And that's what you want to do, is have it be a good story. And the thing is, if people don't want to read about frogs, nothing you can say will make them like it. So don't worry. Don't bother, But if they are at all into frogs on rivers, you've already got them. Do your thing. That's my big, urgent pitching, writing thing. I really feel strongly that you should, ideally, you can give, the best thing is you give your script to someone else takes it and they give it to someone else. That's the best pitch. And that happens without any of your accessory materials, right? So that's what you want. Okay. Do you think going to college and majoring in screenwriting is necessary for a career in it? No. No, it's fine. Good. It's good you're asking. It's all cool. I am glad you're here. You're asking interesting questions that I am happy to answer. I did a whole video, one of these Ask Me Anythings about film school. Should I go to film school? So please do look at that. I'm going to put the link. I'm just writing a note to myself to add the link down later. Here's the thing. The first thing is, if you can can go to college and major in screenwriting, and it's not going to make you like incredibly in debt, yeah, do it, because why not? If you're interested in screenwriting, it's like saying if you want to be a cook, do you go to cooking school? Sure, of course, why not? It's not necessary. You can cook without it. You can screenwrite without it. You have to put yourself through a lot of paces. It's hard work, but frankly, that's the job. Whether or not there is, the thing is, no school will give you everything. At this point, there used to be so few film schools. There were only a handful, 5 or 6 major film schools back when I was a youth, in the 70s and 80s. And then that was an entree because it was so few and it was such a unique thing and those people were all connected. Now there are so many that it's just a thing. It's just a thing you can have. And if you get lucky, if the people who you are in school with happen to move on in the careers and you get along with them, they may say, hey, come work on my thing with me or whatever. And that's cool. That's the thing. That used to happen all the time. It does not happen as much anymore because there's just too many. But it's more about whether or not the question of whether it's valuable. Like when somebody reads a script, they don't ask themselves, where did this person go to school? If somebody is going to consider a script, and if they see that you went to college and major in screenwriting, they'll go, well, clearly they're interested. They put in the time. That's good. Better than somebody who's just like, hey, I'm going to write a script without thinking about it. That's good. On the other hand, there's just thousands and thousands of people majoring in screenwriting. So therefore, it doesn't make you special, and it's not a requirement. It's not like you have to go to dental school to be a dentist. You have to get licensed. You have to prove that you know how to do stuff. That's not so of writing, of art. All you have to do is write good. So, but which just takes a lot of time. So one good thing about going to college and majoring is that they make you do it. So at very least, you'll have heard some stuff you wouldn't have heard ordinarily, which can be bad. I know a lot of people who are telling me about their screenwriting teachers, and frankly, their screenwriting teachers are not well informed or have their own prejudices or their own personal problems or whatever it is. And yeah, that can happen. Teachers can be bad in any school, in any course. But they could also be great. You just never know. So all I can say is don't count on it to do everything for you, but do it if you can, but not on I am going to go into debt because this will pay off. That's the one thing you should not do in any form in the arts. Do not believe that an MFA, the only thing an MFA will get you guaranteed is it gives you the option to teach in the future, which is not a bad career, backup. But it's not like having an MFA in screenwriting or a BA in screenwriting is going to give you like the official entry. That's not what gives you the official entry is doing a lot of work and putting it out there and finding your path in, which could be working, for some person who's going to do a show and you learn by being their writer's assistant, or it could be being an indie and doing something in your hometown and getting it to a film festival. And there is no like dividing line between in and out anymore. You can be a prolific and magnificent filmmaker and never make a penny. And you can be a highly paid Hollywood insider and never write a thing you like. The important thing to remember is that it's on you to decide what's good for you, what you can live with day to day, to say, I feel like I'm doing good stuff. And then when you show it to someone, hopefully some of them will go, damn, that's good. I like that. That's cool. And some of those may show it to someone else. Okay. Do your scenes overlap from the point of view of characters? In the novel? No, they're all, in the novel, the entire contents of the book is the memoir of one of the characters. There are 5 little interchapters, which are points of view of 5 other people on that notebook, on the set of notebooks. It's the memoir is a set of notebooks, and we see how it's getting passed from hand to hand, and that's the overall structure. Yay, I like making sense. You are so welcome, Jordan. Okay, don't rush. Certainly over 18. They're not going to hire you before then. Second of all, take your time, Jordan. In fact, please email me. All right, there. Email me. Click on the contact me at my website. Say it's you, and we can talk more about your specific situation. The short answer is the way that people learn in a writer's room is either they get a lucky break in which somehow or other they get an agent who introduces them and they get hired for a writer's room, or they become an assistant. And there are writer's room assistant programs, which I don't know anything about because I'm old. But I know that there are some. And you can apply. And when you're an assistant, like literally, you are typing and getting coffee and ordering dinner and being yelled at. Hopefully not too much, but sometimes yes. And you are learning by absorbing what's going on. And hopefully the writers will be interested in helping you learn. But joining a writer's room, being a writer professionally, it's a big, complicated thing. You should take as many years, figure 25 or 6 is a likely time for the things you're doing now to pay off that way. And that's okay. I was writing since I was 11 years old, and it took me 6 years to get through college because I'm a mess, and I dropped out and then I went back. And then it took me another 12 years. So it's 18 years, okay? 18 years before I got paid any substantial amount and became a professional writer. 18 years. So, and I'm not saying that like, oh, watch out, you have to take 18 years too. It could happen to you tomorrow, but the odds are it's hard. The odds are you have to keep putting out work and learning. The thing is, this is a extremely competitive, highly skilled profession. And so being at the paid part, being at the top of that game, is like being a professional athlete. However, being an athlete, being a good tennis player, maybe being a tennis pro at the local club, or being a pool hustler, or whatever it is that you can do, you can do that. You can do that starting now, Jordan, and that's what I want to talk to you about. You can start writing now. You can start making stuff now, and that's what's so cool. So do that, and then you'll see about the other stuff. Okay. I'm so glad, mate. Thank you. That is really great. And thank you, Anshul. I appreciate it. And with that, I think, this has been good. I have talked so much that I am tired of hearing myself. I think I've said some good things. So, go out while you haven't made a fool of yourself. Thank you so much. Jordan, please do contact me. Anyone else, if you want to ask me a specific question, go to writingforscreens.com and click on the contact me. It'll open up a little email form that will send me an email. I will reply by email. I don't know why I say things like that. Then I get all these emails and I have no time to do my work. Go write something.